As of December 31st, the Downtown Millburn Development Alliance, which is the district management corporation that handled the township's special improvement district, dissolved. They dissolved with a certificate of dissolution that included giving 50% of the remaining funds of the corporation, after all of their debts are paid, to the Millburn Chamber of Commerce and to the Township Beautification League. Again, this was done in accordance with their bylaws and at the guidance of their professionals.
That's it?
That's it.
Kit?
No report.
And I have two things. First, I would like to give a brief update on the pedestrian hit and run that occurred in our township last Tuesday, in which one of our residents was fatally struck. Our deepest condolences, thoughts, and prayers go out to her family and all those who knew her. At this time, the Essex County Prosecutor's Office, with assistance from the Millburn Police Department, are continuing to investigate this accident as a vehicular homicide. The accident took place on January 8th at approximately 5:15 p.m. at the intersection of Chatham Road and Woodland Road. We implore anyone from our community or any surrounding communities with any information to step forward and speak with our authorities. You can call 1-877-TIPS, number 4EC, which is 1-877-847-7432. And two quick reports. The Environmental Commission met last week. Some of the projects they'll be working on in the coming year are: first, to review all aspects of the town's current lighting ordinance. A benefit will be when applicants appear before the planning board not to have to apply for variances for LED lighting. They will also start the planting of the meadow in the early spring in the large grassy area by the First Aid Squad, as well as replanting and replenishing the rain garden behind Millburn Deli parking lot in Taylor Park. And they're going to investigate if there's any appropriate areas in town for additional electric charging stations. And we met today with the joint 911 dispatch, and everything is running smoothly there, so it's all good. And I see George, our county rep. Any reports?
Good evening, Mayor. One quick report. The county began its deer management program today. It will affect, or could affect Millburn residents, taking place in South Mountain Reservation. It will take place every Tuesday in January and every Tuesday in February, with a makeup date due to inclement weather, if there's inclement weather, on March 5th. Experienced marksmen will be on site for that reason. The South Mountain Reservation will be closed to hikers. I don't know if anyone traveled through today. You saw a lot of heavy police presence just to keep people off any of the trails. I bought cards with the dates highlighted. I can leave them with the town clerk.
Should be noted that this was also communicated on the township's Facebook page, Twitter,
And on your website, I
Perfect.
saw it. That's my report.
Thank you. Gonna try something else. Oh, yes? You have a question for George?
Yes, I do.
Please.
There was a traffic study done.
No, George will be here if we want to add to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think I broke it. Okay, thank you.
In fact, this might work out perfectly. We're gonna try something a little new. Having public comment now for non-agenda items only. Public comment periods for agenda items will occur during other appropriate times during the meeting. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, and speak into the podium microphone so that your comments can be understood by all and properly recorded. Whenever an audience or committee member reads from a prepared statement, please give or email a copy to the Township Clerk's office at cgatty@millburntownship.org, Millburn TWP. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comment to 3 minutes. Would you like to comment? Anybody? Now would be the appropriate time, Mr. Mazur. Right, perfect that we're doing it this way.
Okay, let me address it to you then. There was a traffic study which Alex commissioned on, that was concluded April 10th, 2018 for the intersection of Hobart Gap Road, White Oak Ridge Road, and Hobart Avenue. This report concluded that a traffic light was recommended for the intersection based on two factors. One is the heavy volume of traffic there, which traffic light would improve, and the other was a safety factor. There's been a large number of accidents at the intersection, primarily caused by the sharp curve in the road as on Hobart Gap Road as it approaches Hobart Avenue. This is a county intersection, and I'd like to know what progress is being made towards the installation of a traffic light there.
Sure. So the township had sent a letter to the county engineer's office, and we have received a response, and the two engineering departments are working together to facilitate that. It is a little bit of a complicated issue. There's some more complicated aspects to that in terms of any potential widening of the roadway, but both engineering departments are working on it.
Is there any timetable as to when there will be an agreement between the two, or when we might see? The bottom line is, when could we expect to see a traffic light there?
There is no timetable at this point, Mr. Mazur, but we will keep the community informed of the progress of what's happening there with that intersection, for sure.
Right. Alex, I want to thank you for the work you've done on this.
Thank you. Any other members from the public would like to comment at this time?
This is a non-consent agenda? This is
Yes.
a public comment?
We know you, but please state your name and address for the record.
Phil Kirsch, 93 Cedar Street. In our incredible shrinking Millburn item, I did see the notice this week of the notice to vendors regarding the RFPs for tax attorney, traffic engineering, general attorney, and auditing and accounting. And I just wonder about the procedure on this. I was wondering, first of all, are these considered professional services, so you don't need to take the lowest qualified bidder?
Correct.
Okay. And who makes the final decision? Is that township committee vote?
The committee, yes.
Okay. And was this something previously that basically was the same people were carried over unless there was a problem with them instead of putting out RFPs? Was that what we did in the past?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I will be brief, I promise. Tricia Lister, I live at 11 Benson Court in Short Hills. I am living with construction. I'd like to first, before I have three comments, thank you for some of the changes that you have added to document 2518-18, but it does not go far enough. I'd like to play the video from this morning. Inside my home, I am not that close to the construction. This is what we listen to every day. This is only 12 seconds. I am 100 to 125 feet away from the two gas generators. I have an elderly lady, 87 years old, who lives across the street. She is a lifetime resident. She is about to go out of her mind. I'm giving her therapy now so she does not call the police. Why are we not addressing the fact that new home construction should have temporary power put to the property? I can tell you, the daughter of the 87-year-old lady drove around town on her vacation, home for the holidays. She found every other construction site where they were doing building had temporary electricity to the site. They're not listening to those machines. We listen 8 hours. We listened on Christmas Eve for 8 hours. It's not fair. Okay?
Yes.
Number two is why, and it's not added in this document, when a builder purchases a piece of property, and I am a licensed realtor for over 30 years, do they not have to, before they submit the plans to the town, pay to survey the property and put up markers, visible markers. What we have lived through since May 2nd with this builder trying to still, 3 weeks ago, cut down my trees, and I had to mark my property. I knew. Every other neighbor, and there's 6 of them, had to pay to survey their property because they didn't know where the property lines are. It's not fair. It needs to be addressed before you give permits, their visuals. And if you have to send the building inspector or whoever out to see it prior, it needs to be done. It needs to. Every other town has it, and I know Summit has it. Third, tree removals. We are 6 houses. There are 4 driveways. Now there are 3 driveways on Benson Court. The 4th driveway belongs to the new construction home. The other 2 homes have driveways that go out onto Slayton Drive. Because of what happened with the tree removal and the trees being cut at the ground, 33 total, cut and slammed like bombs for 3 days. The 3 property owners, number 12, number 6, and number 11, we all have to pay for new driveways this spring because of the damage, the cracking. It's not fair. Are you going to give us a tax rebate? We didn't inflict this problem. I'm not done. We also had to endure dump trucks, large dump trucks coming in with rocks that were supposed to be 3.5, 4.5 feet topped. They're larger than that. They came in at 8 o'clock in the morning and they slammed them against the ground like an earthquake. Our houses were shaking. Why? Why do we have to endure this damage? It's because the rules in this ordinance, which don't go far enough. It does not go far enough. Our street is like a dump. Nobody comes by the building department to see that the black silk paper is up. I have pictures, dates and pictures. It's like living in a garbage dump. And now, and I wasn't going to say it, it is now the parking garage for the machine man. They're not using any machines up there. At 6:40 this morning, I could hear my dogs barking. I go out. I didn't know what was happening. It was pitch black. I walk across my front lawn. They're starting the truck to take out. There was so much pollution you couldn't even see. I thought maybe the house. I didn't know what was happening. It's a parking garage. And in the backyard, I have a machine that's bigger than this room that's been parked for a month that is broken. It is the parking garage now for the machine company. They're not hauling dirt. And now tonight we've added a trailer. So I have a red truck, a black truck, a trailer, and a machine. And nobody's using these on that property. And I have full-time surveillance and it's not being used. They're being parked and brought back. Why? I can understand they can park their trucks overnight if they are using them, but this is a storage house now for, and I'm sorry, the machine man. And my last comment is January 8th. It's 8 o'clock. I hear noise, different noise, grinding noise. I look out my door and I know what's happening because I'm smart. They are tearing up the street to put in the electricity across the whole street. We are a dead-end street. We go in and out one way. I get dressed as fast as I can. I call the building department. They don't know what's happening. I call the police department. They don't know what's happening. I know what's happening. They're digging for the electrical to go underground. Wonderful. Attach it. But how do they expect us to get out of our homes? We were giving no notification. I have a lady across the street with 3 small children. I have an 87-year-old lady and myself. Nobody noticed. Nobody told us. We had appointments. I walked down to speak to the policeman, and he told me what was happening. And then in turn, I made sure everybody could get their car out so we weren't held captive with no way out. Why doesn't the builder have to give any notice to us? I rest my case. It's been a living nightmare. I have now named the street. I will not tell you what I have. but your tax collector knows the name, because when I go to pay my taxes in February, and I paid them in November, I told her what I had renamed it. Everybody's calling that street. What we haven't endured by this builder is atrocious. And you know what? Everywhere I go, when they see and they hear who the builder is, they say, oh, they just don't know what to say. It's an ongoing problem. And the house is too big for the property, too. It should have never been allowed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lynn Ranieri, Oakview Terrace. I have one small request, maybe directed to the county representative. As you know, I walk through town every day, and the intersection at Ridgewood Road, opposite Vauxhall, and Millburn Avenue scares me half to death. The light doesn't face the pedestrian. I never know when it's green. I never know when I can walk. And the button that controls that doesn't work either. And I have talked to the police when they've been down there, county police when they've been down there working, asking, please just come and look. You cannot see when you can walk, and I just have to guess and then run like hell to get across the intersection. So if you would please ask somebody to address that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you know where that is?
By the
Okay.
jewelry store? Anthony, somebody?
Oh, she said both.
Jamie Shudo, 77 Jefferson Avenue, Short Hills. Two quick things. I guess one to address to the Township Committee as well as the county rep, because I believe it is a county road. So the intersection of Millburn Avenue and Short Hills Ave obviously has a sidewalk for pedestrians. It's a very busy area. Upper Millburn Avenue, and then all the students walking from that area to the high school, St. Rose's, as well as downtown, the other schools around. Those sidewalks to this day are still bare. They're completely bare. When you turn the corner, you can't tell the difference between the torn up road and any other part of the asphalt, and it's extremely dangerous. I drive there every single day. I used to walk it, and as it was a single. And people have addressed this before. It was always a single standard sidewalk, 2 lines, and an area like that.
Is street or the sidewalk? I'm sorry.
The crosswalk.
Okay.
Excuse me, crosswalk. Was always a standard 2 lines, as we see, in a lot of other parts of the township. However, with the Complete Streets project or wherever there's new roads paved, they include those large stripes, those wide crosswalks, especially around the schools. I really think that would be something for the Township Committee or the county to look into improving that, because, well, to begin with, I know that there was a shortage of crossing guards, and there may still be now. Without the crossing guards there, you're facing, basically life and death, potentially what may have happened, on Chatham Road and is that what's the crossroad there? And Woodland Road. And what are you supposed to do at that point? But this is not the first location. Even I would say all around most of the schools, you're seeing just these standard 2-line crosswalks. And I know there's the PTO committees, the safety committees who have spoken, a lot of them who are not here tonight, but usually are regulars. I think in the new year, this really needs to be pushed, and hopefully, this can improve these conditions. On a second note, regarding lighting throughout the township, obviously, in downtown, lighting was improved. In certain areas where there have been new light poles put up, lighting has improved. But that area around Chatham Road in particular, especially where the former gas station was, and then that walkway down, not the walkway, then the parking along the railroad track, it's extremely dark over there, over by the Arboretum. And obviously there may be ordinances regarding the Arboretum. I know with the project they were trying to put in, there was this, that, whatever about lighting. But it's a very dark area. And then if you look anywhere, and my grandfather, who's 95, we'll talk about it to this day, who's an engineer, why are they using these yellow light bulbs? This is 2018, 19, there's LED, there's everything. Is it a matter of cost? Is it a matter of, we're not using the most modern equipment? It just doesn't make sense.
Jamie, we have been talking about this whole Short Hills train station, the Millburn train station, the lighting, the pedestrian crossing. These are all things that we will definitely be addressing. And we've started those conversations here at Town Hall. So you can look forward to improvements there. And
Hope so.
we really understand that.
Appreciate it.
It's important.
Just to speak to your first point, the county has been communicated to about the crosswalks at Short Hills Avenue. Since it's winter, it's very difficult to get out there and find a good time to stripe and paint. But they have committed to doing that as soon as they're able. And as far as the township's crosswalks, we no longer put in the standard sort of ladder crosswalk. They will be the continental crosswalks, which are the big piano key type ones that you see.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Susan Blackburn, 11 Inwood Road in Short Hills. I was hit by a car on Millburn Avenue and Main Street several years ago before Complete Streets. I've now had a couple of problems crossing by the train station, and I hate to say it, but I predicted what would happen on Woodland Road and Chatham Road, and we're going to build an apartment house with several hundred people living in it, lots of people crossing, the medical center. This road has to be walked by everybody on the township committee because you have no idea what it's like crossing these streets day after day. And I do it now, and I always did because I had a dog for 15 or so odd years. But my question tonight and my hope is we need strict police enforcement. It's very nice that I see people giving parking tickets out on Chatham Road. I actually think it's important. But we need police presence in those crosswalks. I could tell you every anecdote about every time I've ever walked across Chatham Road from the Short Hills train station. And tonight, again, my husband came home and said he was almost hit by a car. If you look on Facebook and you see the posts, you see what other people have to say about that. This is not a surprise. The township can come up with excuses time after time or justify it by saying it's a county road, but in the end, who's going to be sued? We are, and we're going to have to pay for perfectly predictable fatalities and injuries in this town. So we need to get the police presence. I can't believe it. 2 days after a woman was killed in a crosswalk, nobody even saw this accident. Were people walking over her body? I have no idea that there is no police presence at the train stations when people are alighting from the trains during dusk and when it's getting dark at night. The same thing happened again tonight, and if you want to go on Happy Millburn, you can hear the description of the car, and anybody can discuss how we know what kind of car is what. But when I'm telling you that one of them was an Alfa Romeo and one of them was an Audi, you can be sure that we were correct. And we need to shame these people and get some accountability here. And I'm especially directing my question now to the business administrator to tell us who is in charge of the police department here, that the deployment is so unresponsive to the needs of the community.
So, in terms of...
Because you are the one that's actually getting paid a salary here. Everyone else, this is a volunteer position. I'm not, okay?
I understand that. And certainly the police department has responded to the fact that when after the accident they were out at the train station, they handed out flyers, they had a presence there. In terms of enforcement, it was actually on that day that we had put up the warning sign.
I saw the warning sign,
right.
and it was completely unreadable before pitch black dark, because I got off the train that night at 4:20. My husband came home after the accident. You could not read the sign. The placement was way past the crosswalk. If you were crossing from the station to the parking lot, I think it's parking lot 7, but I could be wrong about the number, because I walk to the train station. I live walking distance from the train station. You couldn't see the sign, you couldn't read the sign.
But
And where were the police on Friday? I got off the train with my friend. There was no police presence there.
well,
And this
again,
was after rush.
I
This was during rush hour. This was between 5 and 5:30, probably closer to 5:30.
Okay. Well, I'll speak with the police department, and I'll get a sense of what they've been doing over at the train station, because although we may not see them when we're there, you know, I'm sure that they have had.
The question is not when we're there. We are there when all these incidents are occurring.
Right.
Shortly before, shortly after. Obviously, no one is seeing anything. And there's got to be some accountability from the people in this town that are hired and I consider to be very well paid by this township. You are responsible. They are volunteers. They are working on behalf of this community. You are working for a living here, and you need to be accountable. And I can stay and answer your questions or listen.
Well, one thing
But that is my
So one thing we did do,
concern.
and we are taking this very seriously, we did order bollards that will start lighting the way in the interim until we can do some kind of construction project there. We have to have this go through engineering and planning. We will be doing something there. The point is, it has to be done correctly, to the best ability that we can make that area safer for everybody. And definitely the lighting has to be addressed. And I agree with Jamie, it's yellow lighting. We have to work on all of these things. And we were talking about this before the tragedy. And we talked about jump-starting conditions at the train station. And we are in the process of doing that.
But don't you think if there had been police cars between the middle of December and now, possibly this wouldn't have happened, because people are still plowing through the crosswalk. You can conjecture about it and you can have your defense in court, but this is on all of us. You know,
It's
this
not
has got
community.
to be
It's on-
done.
Right, it's on
I
all
mean,
of us.
if someone says, I want to move to this town, and they look at the crime statistics and they say, oh, this is great, no one was murdered here in 3 years, or whatever the statistic is. Well, I don't know what you call the amount of people that have been assaulted and killed by cars. We know that within the last 3 months, 2 people have been killed here. Okay? If 2 people had been murdered here, I think maybe there would be some police activity about it. I did not hear Alexander McDonald say that police cars are at the station.
Thank you. Do any other members of the public have any comments before we go to the rest of the meeting? Okay. Oops. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? The consent agenda, I'm sorry.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Are there any comments from the committee or the?
Call for a roll
Oh,
call.
I'm sorry, roll call. First meeting.
Ms. Burstein?
Yes.
Ms. Lingelberg?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Mayor Thal-Eglo?
Yes.
Thank you.
Are there any comments from the committee or the public in regards to any items listed on the consent agenda? May I have a motion to approve the resolutions listed?
We just did.
Oh, we did that, okay. So I'm learning, folks, and I hope you will all bear with me, okay? Thank you. All right, so, where are we?
Your ordinance.
Okay, this one. I would like to present an ordinance entitled Township of Millburn Ordinance Number 2523-19. Ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 7, Traffic Section 7-29, Speed Limits of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Millburn. The proposed amendment to the traffic ordinance is to authorize a reduction in the speed limit on Highland Avenue to 25 miles an hour for the entire length of the roadway. Okay? And as you know, we will be putting up a stop sign on the corner of Highland and Hobart, and this will to ensure that the traffic coming down the hill is one speed limit the entire length of the roadway. I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with the law in the item, and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, February 5th, 2019. May I have a second?
Second.
May I have a roll call?
Ms. Bursting?
Yes.
Ms. Lieberberg?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Mayor Thornton?
Yes. Okay. Old business. I believe Committeewoman Lieberberg has some old business.
Yes, that were, with respect to the Airbnb
Yes.
ordinance, or, we'll let Alex kind of walk us through it.
Okay. So at a previous meeting, Committeewoman Lieberberg had brought up the matter of short-term rentals in general, not particular to any site or anything, but short-term rentals that generally consist of those rentals of less than 30 days, and the possible enforcement of that or prohibition of that by the township. And so tonight we have a draft in front of the committee of a potential ordinance, and now would be the time to sort of discuss what your thoughts on that matter would be, and whether to move that forward into a first reading.
Do any member of the committee have questions or concerns about moving this ordinance?
Well, I have a concern because I believe that Mr. Falcon sent us some information that it might not be enforceable. So, do you want to speak to that?
Well, I hope I didn't. What we have is, we have two ordinances. Maybe it was subsequent to a conversation we had. We broke this into two ordinances so as to eliminate the problem that I originally saw.
Okay.
One ordinance will make a short-term rental, which, as has been described, is a rental under 30 consecutive days of a structure, an accessory building, including but not limited to a vehicle parked on a property, expressly prohibited use under the zoning ordinance, a no-can-do. The second ordinance would make it a violation of the general code to offer to anyone, by any means, there are a list of enumerated means, internet, flyers, newspapers, however, the use of a property for a prohibited use. In other words, to hold out as available to the public the use of a property which is in fact a prohibited use under the zoning ordinance, and that would involve the issuance of a summons and being brought to the municipal court and fined by additional means. So I think that addresses the situation that I'd been originally concerned about, whether that kind of a regulation really properly belongs in the zoning ordinance, so we've done two.
And I believe a few years ago, there was a home, I think it might have been the Wyoming section, that the neighbors believed were being rented out for Airbnbs, and we didn't have any enforcement mechanism to control that. So this is to address that, and it's come to our attention that there are other properties that people are advertising for Airbnbs.
I think it also should be noted that in the ordinance, it does give some exceptions as well to shelters, adult family care homes, and residents that are temporarily living in another or renting out another home as they do work on a property in the township. Just wanted to make note of that.
Right, which many people do.
Mm-hmm.
Any comments from the public, or no?
No, they can comment during public.
Okay, all right.
Listen, I'm okay with moving forward with this.
Right. I think it's gotta be protected.
Right.
Yes, I mean, I was the one that this was brought to my attention, and I think that it's in the best interest of the township to kind of proactively address this before it becomes a neighborly issue in our residences and in our communities.
Okay.
So it sounds like consensus from the committee.
Sounds like we should move forward with this.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. public comment time again. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, and speak into the podium microphone so that your comments can be understood by all and properly recorded. Whenever an audience or committee member reads from a prepared statement, please give or email a copy to the Township Clerk Office at cgaddy@millburntwp.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. May we have any comments from any additional comments from the public? Oh, come back up.
Jamie Suter, 77 Jefferson Avenue, Short Hills. I was just wondering if there was an update on the Town Hall Plaza Road in the I guess it would be the entrance to Town Hall Plaza with regard to that telephone pole and that exit being closed.
There is no update at this time, but I'm sure that will probably be an area of viewing by the committee at some point. Not to speak for them, but.
Okay, and is there any, and on kind of a similar topic, is there any update on the rest of the telephone poles within the township, in the downtown that were the new telephone poles that were put in, and with regard to the status of the old poles being removed?
No.
Okay, so would that be a similar situation being brought up to the committee, or that's
Sure.
just?
Of course.
Okay. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Up, please come back up.
Phil Kirsch, 93 Cedar Street. I had emailed Mr. McDonald about this. I just wanted to bring it up in front of the committee. That my understanding is that at the Millburn train station, that underpass is New Jersey Transit property. But I was wondering if the township could contact New Jersey Transit or maybe work in tandem with them to do something about cleaning that up. And maybe even in my dreams, the best thing would be to maybe have some students paint a mural underneath there. So instead of this kind of dilapidated, dark area underneath, it could be something that really looks good for the town when you go down there.
We might be able to address that.
Okay, that's what I wanted. I just wanted to bring it up, in front of the entire committee, and I know you were probably looking into that also.
I had reached out to our friends in Madison, where you may see some of that artwork under the underpass, and it had been done so long ago that they weren't able to sort of give a proper procedure. Obviously, contacting New Jersey Transit will be the best route, so we'll reach out to our area rep with New Jersey Transit if that's something that the committee would like to pursue.
Yeah, it'd certainly be a feather in the cap for the town if they could dress that up, with
Right.
permission from New
There are
Jersey
other
Transit.
areas that we're looking to dress up around town as well, but we have to get to each thing.
Right.
But thank you, that's a great idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean Cosgrove, 99 Oakview Terrace. Josh Scharf had spoken a couple weeks ago about the dangerous turn that there is when you go from Chatham Avenue and you go under the train trestle, and suggested getting a mirror because as you make the left, even if it's clear as you start your left, as you're halfway across, there's most of the time a car coming straight at you and going to broadside you. So only their curve slows that car down enough that they don't hit you. I don't know if anyone's ever been hit, but you do always get a little bit of it's jarring as you come around to see the car.
Yeah, I think it would have to be really placement if that mirror could
Yeah.
be placed where it would not be hit by a tall vehicle. I think depends.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the.
It would be on the wall, I assume, like they do in
Yeah,
foreign countries.
Foreign countries.
It's also, we could pose the question in engineering, but it was my understanding that the convex mirrors are not generally used for that purpose. I know a lot of people use them to get out of their driveway. But for traffic safety in that instance, it can be problematic, especially at night where you're not trying to judge distance. But we can run that by the traffic. by the
Yeah,
engineering
yeah.
department.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, well, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposed? Okay. Thank you all for joining us tonight.
You got it. People don't even know about the house decisions.
You and I talked about that a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about actually